Flanagan as a veteran reporter who had an enormous scope of experience and described his work as quality and professional. But that opinion began to crumble within the first year of working at this Roanoke station.
Yeah, a whole lot of experience, enormous body of experience usually can also mean a guy who can't stay at one place. He has to work at a bunch of different places because he has issues, he has problems that eventually come out.
Coworkers stated that after his firing, Flanagan had a meltdown in the newsroom. Police were called out and had to take him out of the building. Adam Ward, the cameraman, had recorded the scene as Flanagan was escorted out of the building. Management informed employees to call 911 if he ever returned to the building.
All right, so he's lost his shit. He's got fired. Kinds of problems with everybody else. So this guy, the more I heard and read about him, he's always had a problem with people. And as soon as people call him on his bullshit, things he's doing wrong, he's quick to, oh, you're discriminating. He's a black gentleman. So, but he's quick to pull the race card, if you will. I know that's kind of a, questionable way of saying it, but I think he truly was one of those people who did that when it wasn't really a racial issue.
Well, and I believe he was homosexual, so he also would say he felt discriminated against because of his sexual orientation as well as race. Right,
and you get a guy like that, and they hurt anyone who really is being discriminated against on sex, sexual orientation, or race, because he is just an asshole who's hard to work with, right? But, when people call him on his BS, he instantly turns into this other conversation.
Well, I can see both sides of the coin here. I think, first of all, there are probably some of our listeners out there. I know I've had a really bad experience in a workplace where I felt I was unjustly let go.
Right.
When I was really and truly the innocent person of the whole staff who hadn't done anything and was railroaded. And yeah, when that happened, I was pretty upset because it was completely unfair. So I understand kind of losing your shit a little bit and being fuck you, you're okay, fuck you. I mean, I get that attitude.
Well, yeah, of course.
Because, it's well, this is some bullshit right here.
Well, especially if you hadn't done anything.
Right. But I think you have to look at the whole package of, is this an employee who has just gotten fired or is being let go and they're losing their shit, but they don't have a history of problems?
Right.
Okay, this is just very hard or upsetting for them. Or do you have this employee who has this history of conflict, problems, violent behavior, erratic behavior, then they get fired and lose their shit? Then yeah, that probably seems okay, this employee is a threat more so than this employee's just pissed off right now, but in a day they're going to be fuck that place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, if you look at a sum of all parts, like you said, if this has happened more than once and all these different places, some of them quite far apart in different areas, then yeah, it's probably something you're doing. And you have this pattern.
Well, when it comes to workplace violence, I think some people are quick to think someone's
been wronged.
Emotional reaction to a situation is, oh, well, they're a danger to me.
Right.
But they don't have a history of that. And it's okay, well, that person's probably just upset and they're going to go on and probably never see you again and not think about you in 2 weeks.
Right.
Or the person who has constant conflict with coworkers. We did the story earlier on our podcast on Mountain Murders about the fellow at the Union Butterfield plant in Asheville.
Right.
That went in and shot up the place after he was fired. But he had a history of conflict with all of his coworkers, much like Vester Flanagan.
Exactly.
Well, Flanagan says that this firing was racial discrimination. He filed an EEOC complaint, which is Equal Employment Opportunity Commission complaint. He said he felt this was just completely, a discrimination issue. He was being targeted for his race. That complaint is later dismissed. In the grievance, he named Allison Parker. He took to social media to repeatedly make claims that Parker was a racist. He also included Adam Ward's name in many of the posts. For example, on August 26, 2015, he tweeted, "Allison made racist comments."
Well, okay. And when see someone say that, oh my God, did that, I instantly are like, what the hell did that person say? You know what I mean? What did they do?
Here's a little background on Flanagan. He was born October 1973 in Oakland, California. He was described as a popular teenager who had been a model for Macy's department store.
Oh.
So good-looking guy.
Hey, you reckon he was doing like the Husky department?
He was voted homecoming prince during his junior year of high school. In 1995, he earned a degree in broadcasting. He held several jobs as a production assistant and a general assignment reporter.
So he was well experienced and had been around that field for a long time, right?
During his career, Flanagan had multiple issues with colleagues and coworkers. So this is where we're going to get into this pattern of behavior.
Yeah, so either he keeps getting hired by racists or something's up with him.
In Florida, between 1999 and the year 2000, he said coworkers were making comments about his sexual orientation. Later, coworkers would say Flanagan verbally abused his female coworkers. He had been nicknamed the Diva by others because of his behavior. People didn't want to work with him on assignments. He was dismissed for his odd behavior in the year 2000. Flanagan files a lawsuit for racial discrimination. He sued for $75,000 in damages. A settlement was reached, and he went on to work at some other stations. His lawsuit made claims such as he had been called a monkey by a producer. He said a white employee had told him it busted her butt that blacks did not take advantage of free money.
Oh, okay.
Meaning, I guess, scholarships being available for African Americans so they could attend college.
Okay.
He said he also overheard employees being told not to speak any Ebonics and that coworkers called black criminals thugs.
Okay, well, that's all not cool, right?
No.
None of that is cool. And I'm sure that in his life, he had experienced people saying crazy shit like that.
They do reach the settlement. He gets his chunk of money, moves on.
Right.
To other stations. Well, after being fired from WDBJ in Roanoke, he got a job at a call center. He had issues with his coworkers there.
At the call center?
Yes. People described his behavior as aggressive and rude.
Yeah, and I think that aggression is what particularly his women counterparts in the workplace. When you're in the workplace, you expect people to be a certain way. Like, I don't want to lose my job. It's like you're almost on your best behavior.
Well, even if you don't like a coworker,
right.
You
Aggression.
Still need to maintain some semblance of professionalism.
Right, we're at work.
We're here to do a job. I don't have to be your best friend.
Don't have to be your friend, but we can work together if we have to get the job done.
Well, right. And I would think that was what most reasonable adults would aspire to do.
And no one should have to deal with, like, true... discrimination or any of those things he said that in his alleged in his suit there were all things that's not cool. I wouldn't expect anyone to have to work in that environment.
Definitely
but at
not.
the same time, I wouldn't expect his coworkers, male or female, to have to come in and deal with any kind of someone getting really, really, really mad to the point where you're getting nervous being in the same room with them when they throw a fit. That's totally wrong to make them work in that environment as well.
Well, and respect goes both ways.
Right.
And instead of lashing out at your coworkers, if they truly are making these kind of statements, this is when you pursue, HR grievances, complaints, and go through the proper channels.
Right.
To make sure that this is documented, that you can prove a pattern of discrimination or improper behavior in the workplace.
And I wouldn't say, and it's how do you act? Now, I'm not saying you deserve anything, but you can't be overly aggressive. And then maybe people just don't like you because you're an asshole, not because you're black or your sexual orientation, Maybe it's just because you're a damn asshole. But some people always can turn that back into themselves and be like, oh, it's everybody against me, and not really want to do any self-reflection on the way they act.
Well, one bad reaction from, you get some bad reaction from a coworker. They say something you don't like. They make a comment you don't approve of. I mean, lashing back out with another bad, retort is...
Right.
And it's never going to be a good situation.
Right.
You're just going to be at each other's throats, neck and neck.
Well, and I can tell you, if I was around any of them people saying any of that stuff that he had in his suit, I would tell them they're pieces of shit. I would not sit around and call someone a monkey with other people or all that, racially tinged, even if it was bad jokes, I would tell people that's not my thing. I don't think that's funny. And I would call them out as another white person, if you will. But, it sounds
check
like
that shit at the door.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. And I would call people out on that. And that's what you should do in a workplace, because I wouldn't want anyone to feel, bullied or beat up on in any form or fashion.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's emotional language that gets people riled up.
But if everywhere
in some sense,
you go,
I can see where Vester Flanagan would be like, that's not cool, and have a reaction. But, it's like at the end of the day, you really should take this stuff to HR instead of blowing up.
Right. And
because he's the one that ends up getting fired.
And I'm sure he's encountered times when he had possibly encountered times when he, being black and in America, a legitimate complaint. And
Neighbors,
maybe it wasn't, taken care of.
Who lived in his apartment building also complained that he had behavior that was very hostile.
Yeah, he's just an asshole. He's crazy.
He got into multiple disputes with neighbors. He threw cat feces at people's doors and such. He was rude, combative, would go out of his way to have conflict with his neighbors.
Right. Drama
just escalate the situation.
Right. He loves it.
It seems that he does.
He seeks it out. I mean, he can't even have neighbors. I mean, damn.
Yeah, so we've got call center job, people complaining about his behavior. We've got the neighbors complaining about his behavior. This is a guy who's seemingly having some sort of downward spiral. And, I don't know if it was like a mental issue, undiagnosed.
Well, he's certainly...
But he's definitely seemingly kind of in this spiral.
Or at the very least, he has some very significant personality quirks that are antisocial or just really affect the way he interacts with the public. I mean, it seems.
Well, as someone who has worked in media, broadcasting, radio, television, I mean, I've kind of done the array of jobs kind of associated with media and communications.
Right.
I can tell you that a large majority of the people working in that field, we do tend to have a lot of narcissism.
Okay, big personalities.
We do. There's a lot of sociopaths, and I'm not even making that as a joke, but legit, like, if you look at those job lists of, like, the number one fields, the top 10 jobs where people are sociopaths.
Right.
They're, like, reporters and radio personalities are, like,
really?
number 1 or 2 on the list.
Well, I guess you have to have a certain type of personality to, want to get in front of the camera, right?
Well, I mean, I think you probably do, yeah.
Or radio, or any of that
stuff. So I'm just saying that, there is a lot of people, I think, that are attracted to that field that probably do have some narcissistic personality.
So...
And I mean, I've been there and I've done that, and I'm not saying I'm not part of that, because I probably am too.
So Mr. Flanagan just goes on and he's not getting along with anybody, right?
Right.
Yeah, it just keeps on and on.
So he definitely, I think, has some of that.
Right.
Narcissism.
Yeah, maybe even more.
In his suicide note, he made references to racial discrimination and sexual harassment committed by both black men and white women in the workplace. He said he was singled out for being black and homosexual.
Well, and that's a pretty big combination there, I guess, black and gay, if you will. In
other ramblings, he praised those who had committed mass violence, like the Columbine shooters, and talked extensively about Dylan Roof's shooting in Charleston at the black church.
Okay, supporting Dylan Roof?
Well, he said that was a tipping point for him. He claimed the attack was going to be revenge for the killings of 9 black people in the Charleston church.
Okay.
He said Jehovah had told him what to do. He also made statements about being fucked up in the head. Well, clearly. Flanagan had purchased the Glock 2 days after the Charleston shootings.
Okay. Well, that's not good.
So this is a man who's in this downward spiral, probably has some sort of undiagnosed mental illness.
Yeah, it sounds like he may think even like
so this mass shooting, it's really just kind of pushed him over the edge.
Or he maybe thinks like a race war is about to pop off.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't sound mentally healthy.
No.
And he seems to be alone in his daily life. And he doesn't even have another personality or a person to, You know how you vent to your love